My grandfather had taught me at a young age that being a Sikh man, it's your duty to protect those who can't protect themselves. And so that's reflected as an offensive lineman when I'm protecting my quarterback and my running back, and it's also going to be reflecting who I am as an individual when I'm trying to protect the community. Name is Jas Dhillon, born and raised here in Surrey, British Columbia, and I'm playing professional football in the CFL for the BC Lions. I'm going into my 4th professional season as a pro football player. In a little bit more depth, I play offensive line, and that's more like the trench warfare style of football where everything happens in the trenches to set up everything else, the receivers scoring their touchdowns and the quarterbacks throwing for their passing yards and all that. So we ensure that there's gaps for the running back to run the ball and that our quarterback stays upright. It's a battle. It's straight up, dog versus dog, right? Like it's you're in the trenches there, and you're going into a fight every play because there's another guy in front of you who's just as big, if not a little bit bigger and faster, that you got to move or manipulate so that your team has the opportunity to get into a position to score a touchdown. Process. You got to respect the grind. You got to respect the process. The process is the how do you say it? I think the process would be the embodiment of the spiritualness that is going on around you. Like, it takes time, man. It's like marinating steak. Like, you put the rub on it, you can't throw it on the grill right away. You gotta let this flavor soak in a little bit, you know what I mean? There's actually time, like a period that has to occur before you can go into the next step. There's a maturity phase, if you will, that has to happen. Otherwise, you might fall flat on your face. It's passion, man. Like it derives from a seed that has to be planted inside of you, man. Like, I tell everybody this, like, if you genuinely, from the core of your body, from your soul, if you are driven to do something, you're gonna do whatever you can to make that happen. You know what I mean? Like, whatever that is. And for me, it was football and it was policing. And I was gonna be a football player, and I wasn't just gonna be an average football player, I had to be the best. And I wasn't gonna rest or stop till that was gonna happen because, and I have been, and I continue to be sometimes underestimated, and that's fine because, I'm a hard-working dude, and I'll work anybody that there is just to show you the type of passion that I have for doing what I want to do. And that was instilled in me from when I was a kid, like from my grandfather and my father and my uncle, and all these guys were working so hard to try to feed a family, and that was their passion. They genuinely liked to go to work so that they can come back and spend time with their family and give them things that they didn't have growing up. And I think it was essential that I got taught that at a young age, because it's passion that should drive you to do something, not just wanting to do something because you think it's going to make you a lot of money. I'm not making a lot of money playing professional football in the CFL, maybe in the NFL, but not in the CFL. But I have a passion to go to work every single day, so I'm getting paid out a little bit better. You know what I mean? So it has to do with that. It has to do with that. Like, I don't give a crap about money. I don't. Like, I can be a millionaire or I could be whoever, but I'm gonna be the same way. You know what I mean? Money is kind of like one of those supplemental things in life that it gives you to do things or whatever, right? But it just comes down to that. It comes down to passion. Well, this is a professional league, so we have to hold ourselves to a professional standard. When it comes to traveling to games or what have you, we're expected to be suited and booted, right? And we have to look the part, and we have to, behave in accordance to what, the community is expecting of a professional athlete. And so style's up there, man. Like, I got custom suits because I'm a bigger guy, so, but I got a variety of them, and I like to change it up from time to time. My late grandfather, and it was, he pretty much taught me how to go out there and grind for what I wanted to accomplish in my life. The aspects of what hard work can get you, the work can get you, and what the reward of it would be at the end of the day. And looking back on it now, when I was getting taught those lessons, or when I first started playing football, if you asked me if I was going to play professional football, probably would have said no, because that is a much higher standard to where you're trying to go, and you're at such a young level and at such a small skill of the level that you're already at, so you're not thinking that far in the future. But it's still built a foundational framework for where I could propel myself onto the next step, and then do that same thing over and over again and repeat the process to when I finally ended up getting drafted. He was a teacher, actually, and so he taught. Like he had a lot of stories, and he taught by lessons, and he taught by just bending my ear from time to time and just telling me, this is the way you do it, this is how it needs to be done, and this is what you got to do. So he was probably the best teacher I've ever had in my life. Man, if people could see me as a hardworking individual, someone who worked his ass off for what he earned in his life, then hopefully someone can see what I did and try to copy my style. And it might not work for everybody, because for me it was like I said before, respecting the process, paying my dues, and grinding every single day, trying to get to where I wanted to be. If it was the gym, if it was school, whatever, everything had to be done in accordance, and it had to be done in a certain way. And if someone could see that at the end of the day when I'm retired or when I'm long gone, then yeah, that's something that I would want them to highlight on, the fact that I respect the process and that I was grinding every single day. Football is a means to an end. It's stupid for me to sit here and say, or any professional athlete to sit here and say that they're going to be playing professional sports for their whole life. Well, you can't do that, especially in football, especially in the position that I play. It's extremely physical and aggressive, and your body's going to take a toll. And eventually, you're going to have to move on to something. So having a backup plan or a cushion to fall back on I think is a necessity. And for me, yeah, I never thought about it as something to fall back on, but I thought of it as something to propel forward too. So that's why I had policing in mind, and I've had it in mind since I was in high school, and it's always stayed in my mind. And I feel like it's the ultimate way to pay the community back for what it's given me growing up in the Surrey Delta area. And on top of that, my grandfather had taught me at a young age that being a Sikh man, it's your duty to protect those who can't protect themselves. And so that's reflected as an offensive lineman when I'm protecting my quarterback and my running back, and it's also going to be reflecting who I am as an individual when I'm trying to protect the community. That comes from my faith, absolutely. It comes from my faith in Sikhi, but it also comes from my family, because it's growing up, it was always important, or it was always kind of said, or it was always thrown around in some essence in the house that, if you can help somebody who needs your help, then you should help them. If you have the means to do so, then you should absolutely do whatever you can to help that person. And like you said, there's way too many kids nowadays, especially that are Indo-Canadian, that are, getting caught up in this, whole drug dealing and whatever, doing the shit that they're doing and getting killed for it, and leaving behind families who, obviously are missing these individuals. And it's kind of like, well, where did their families go wrong, or where did they go wrong? And it's kind of like, maybe there was just a misdirection that they had. You know what I mean? I like to attribute it to a lot of factors. Like, I don't know what it is that made these kids go down the path that they're going down, but it's, I think that the broader spectrum, when you look at it from like a outside perspective, you look at it and you think there had to be some sort of miscommunication or misdirection happening in this person's life for them to feel like that they had to be involved or accepted by a certain group of individuals. And so maybe that was the only way that they felt that sort of, embrace or that sort of love was from a particular style. And if that's the case, then, we're obviously doing something very wrong. So we have to change that. And there's a need now more than ever to do so. Well, it's funny because I've talked to some kids who, have been or are involved. And I'm kind of like, well, what do you think you're gonna get out of this? Like, why is your life any different than the dude that just got killed last week? And they have nothing to say to that. It's not gonna happen to me. Well, you really believe that? Do you really think that these guys are gonna stand by you when you're getting jumped, or if someone pulls a gun on you, or do you think they're gonna take off and run? At that point, it's dog eat dog, and it's every man for himself, right? So, and I think kids just don't get that because there's a lack of experience in number one, because they're too young to understand that. or they're just being naive, you know, or just not paying attention to what's really happening. And it's sad, but it is what it is, and like I said, it needs to be changed. Absolutely. There's a definite void in the Canadian household, I feel like, nowadays, where I think kids are being kind of shunned out for whatever reason, for not getting the embrace or the essence of love from their house. Maybe because, you know, and to no fault of their parents, because maybe they're grinding, trying to make ends meet. And if that's the case, then, well, shit, that's a tough situation to be in. But that by no means gives you no excuse to get into what you're doing. Well, let's just look at the aspect that we're just talking about with these guys that are getting involved in a lot of crap now. And it's kind of like there might be an absence of that in the household. So if there's an absence of that in the household, they need to get that from somewhere else. And I find it that it's absolutely crucial to highlight people who are coming from similar situations. Like, you know, I'm no different than these kids. I grew up in the same neighborhood, you know what I mean? Grew up around the same type of individuals who were heavily involved into, you know, drugs and alcohol and all that crap. Easily could have gone down the route myself, but I didn't, because I had a presence of something there, you know? So having a presence of a positive male role model, not in the house, but sometimes in the community, can make a difference for somebody, because they can see that and be like, well, hey, shit, this guy came from the same neighborhood as I went through the same shit that I went through, but he turned out this way. So absolutely, 100% I agree with you. You have to have a magnifying glass, you know, that kind of magnifies the people that are in the community that are doing the things that they're doing. Absolutely, because that gives another platform for these youths to look at and be like, we can do that, we can do that, we can do this. I'm never going to tell a kid that he can't play professional sports, because at one point I was that kid who thought that I couldn't play professional sports. I don't know what this kid has inside him. Sometimes you can't measure how big someone's heart is. You know what I mean? Like, everyone always reflects back to like the whole Tom Brady thing when he got drafted in the 6th round, 199th overall. You know, looked like a skinny, scrawny piece of shit, for lack of a better word, but went on the field and was an absolute monster. You can't measure that. You can't measure what someone has inside. So, absolutely, I think it's very crucial to highlight positive role models in the community. With the BC Lions, I go into schools and I'll talk to these kids about the different choices that they're making, or their goal settings, or you know, where their life's headed, or what they can be doing instead of what they're doing. And I find that that's important, because it gives them an example. Now, I'm using myself as an example, but yeah, if I can do it, there's no reason why anybody else can't. And we know guys like yourself, you know, Sad, Danny, you're gonna highlight a bunch more on this, but there's a lot of people that are just in this community alone, just in Surrey, and within like a 15, 20 block radius, that you know, that are just doing crazy stuff with their life, and it's amazing, right?